Do you have a dream? I believe that most people have a dream, something that God has spoken over them. And sometimes we hold this really close to our heart, but most people have a dream. Whether it is a big dream, let's go change the world kind of dream, or it's a smaller, just dreams about financial stability, our family is blessed kind of dream, whichever way you go there, God will many times reveal dreams to us. Sometimes it's revealed by a thus saith the Lord. Sometimes it's in the still of the night. But this video is for those of you that have a dream, that know you have a calling. And after you've received that calling and received that dream, you may be experiencing a bit of a delay. And now you're starting to wonder, is the dream even going to happen? Is this still the call that God has on my life? I believe it is time to call out the dreams that God has spoken and to empower others to fulfill their dreams. If you resonate with what I am saying, then this video is for you and will encourage you. Today, I will share with you a recording from a training that I recently did with our coaching clients. In that training, we dove into the Bible looking for answers around what happens when God gives us a dream and then it's followed by a delay. What you do during that delay will make all the difference in seeing the fulfillment of that dream. I am the big dream, big vision kind, okay? And there's not enough people speaking into that. But God is doing things in the spiritual to position people for the big things. And so it's time to start speaking out and calling those things out. Thank you, Carlos. Okay. And it's okay. It's okay if you're like, it's not me. Cause like sometimes it's a smaller thing. It's just family. It's like, just like a smaller, tighter, I just want to see our family be well and strong in the Lord. Okay. That's like it doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be books or keynote speakers or any of that. Okay. It can be. It doesn't have to be. Okay. And so right now, as I ask you guys permission to dream. So let's just start there. Okay. Permission to dream. It's the enemy who wants to tell you, nah, that thing ain't possible. That thing ain't real. That voice that you heard in the middle of the night. No. But God, I believe, is in this season of breathing on dreams again to go, let's go. You have an unfinished assignment and not much time left to get it done. And so let's go. Okay. So here's the thing. God gives us vision. He gives us a dream. He'll give us a prophetic word over where we're going. But then, usually there's this wait. This wait, right? Well, in that waiting, it's not that we're just supposed to wait for God to bring the thing and for it to fall into our lap. In that waiting, we are to become the person who can actually do the thing that God has revealed. Does that make sense? We must become the person who can actually do the thing that God has revealed. This is especially the bigger the vision is, the more this is true. Okay. So I want to make sure that we don't go on the danger side of it, of just sitting and waiting, because that's how we often we're like, oh, we'll just wait and we'll just wait and we'll just see. No, don't just wait. In the process, become the person you have to be in order to handle the big thing that God has spoken about. So I want to look for the example to this, which we love, and there's so much to unpack here, is Joseph's life. Okay, so we're gonna go to Genesis, starting in 37. There's multiple chapters here. I'm not gonna read it all. You're like, oh, thank you, but read it because there's so much meat here. And again, reminding you that the word of the Lord is alive and breathing. Right? And so every time, like you guys know the story of Joseph. It's not like, oh, I've never read the story of Joseph. I mean, I'm hoping you know the story of Joseph. Okay, maybe you don't, and that's okay. Okay, read it. All right. But if you've read it, yeah, I've read it. Man, sometimes when you have been warming a pew for a very long time, okay, we don't have pews anymore. We have chairs, but whatever. You understand. If you've been inside church services for a long time and Bible studies and whatever, sometimes they'd be like, oh, let's talk about the woman at the well. And you're like, oh, the woman at the well. How many sermons have you heard about the woman at the well? Right? And like we kind of check out and it's like, it's alive and breathing. So tune in because you're about to hear something powerful. Okay. All right. So Joseph, dreamer, yes, right? This is like his description. Later in scripture, we talk about Joseph the dreamer, right? Actual literal dreams, prophetic dreams. Yes? Okay. All right. And he had a dream, a prophetic dream about his own life when he was 17 years old. Do you think that he was ready to rule Egypt when he was 17? Not a chance. Not even remotely. But God revealed the dream to him. It was up to Joseph to hold that dream despite a number of circumstances that seemingly went the wrong way, right? Sold into slavery. We'll get into it in a minute, okay? But sold into slavery, went to prison, right? This is not the dream of ruling, right? So it was up to Joseph to hold the dream, to hold the vision, to know it's true. And it was up to him to submit to the journey and allow God to form his character, to transform his life so that he could actually develop what he needed to be able to then rule Egypt. It says he was second in all the country and all the land to Pharaoh, only to Pharaoh. Pharaoh was the only one above him in the end. That was the dream that he had. I mean, I'm getting off track. Okay. It's not like he knew that was the meaning of the dream, right? He knew some of it, but he didn't understand fully what the dream was. Okay. But again, he had the dream when he was 17, took him a long time to get there. Why? All along the journey, God is working situations to form his character. And this isn't just this isn't just an example we see in Joseph. We see this in many other places. Okay. There's many other places, but we're going to go to Joseph and camp out because his life is beautiful. Okay. So many times we want the dream. We've had the dream, we received it, but we don't want to go through the process that is required for becoming the person who can handle the dream. You understand? Having the dream and handling the dream are two totally different things. You guys tracking with me? Okay. All right. So Genesis 37. I'm just going to start in verse 2 and get my reading glasses because those help me to see. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was pasturing the flock with his brothers. He was a boy with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his sons because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a robe of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. I started here just to lay out, for one, the context of 17 years old, but also to see right away Jacob favored Joseph. There was favor upon Joseph's life. Sometimes we give Jacob a hard time. How dare you have favorites? Whatever, doesn't matter. Joseph was a favorite. Okay, there was favor upon Joseph's life. And others were jealous. His brothers were jealous. And then in the next verses, he's going to start to dream, have big dreams. And it drives his brothers mad to more jealousy. And the reason I wanted to just side note, pull this side nugget out here, is because sometimes we shy away from the dream, from the call, especially the bigger it is, because we know others will be jealous or will not understand the big dream. And we see this in our culture all the time, where it's like, we just see it all the time. Okay. All right. Verse 5. Now Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, Hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf. His brothers said to him, Are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us? So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. And we're not done. He dreams another dream. And then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me. But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you? And his brothers were jealous of him. But his father, who had just rebuked him, kept the saying in mind. Interesting, right? He just rebuked him, but he's like, I'm just going to hold this one in my heart, right? It says Mary held all these things in her heart as Jesus was growing. Okay, so great. So you had the two dreams. Family's not happy, but clearly, okay, we don't understand. They don't understand, because when you have a prophetic dream like that, and you have a vision, you don't fully understand. We get glimpses, okay? God doesn't tell us the whole story. Why? Because we would run and find ourselves in the belly of a well if we understand fully the impact of our call, right? Okay. All right. But this dream, nonetheless, no matter how you slice it, is talking about leadership and authority and governance, right? Okay. We know that much. That is very clear. Like, you can't get around the symbolism here. Okay. There's bowing down happening. So we're talking about leadership and ruling, right? Okay. So here's the dream, 17 years old. And then the story takes a turn. You guys are familiar, yeah? Okay, but we're gonna line it out, okay? So in verse 21, so I'm gonna go. So verse 21 through 26, okay? He gets sold into slavery. No, 36 actually. All right. So I'm going to kind of recap, because we might be here all day if I go through all the verses. Okay. But again, look at them. Okay. Look at them, because there's these like little, if you look at it and you really lean into the Holy Spirit and go, God, show me, like reveal to me what I need to know. Okay. You will see something new. Like there'll be some little piece that maybe you've never noticed before. That'll be like, oh, that's the piece. That's the encouragement I needed. That's the thing that's speaking to my circumstance right now to just give me hope and encouragement for this next step. Okay. All right. But here again, in these verses, we see that his brothers turn against him, right? And sell him into slavery. There's some interesting side points and side notes and all kinds of fun stuff happening in that. But nonetheless, his brothers betray him and sell him into slavery. Can you imagine like how would you respond? Okay. But I don't know what Joseph was going through in his head, but I'm pretty sure it went something like, wait, what? But you said I was going to rule, and this does not look like ruling to me. This looks like slavery, right? What is going on? Yeah. So he gets sold into Potiphar's house. Slave, though. He is a slave. He's a slave in Potiphar's house, to be very clear. But Joseph becomes a manager. Okay? Now, what's so interesting here about this? So skipping 38, whole side note about Judah and Tamar. Chapter 39. So picking up at chapter 39, where he's in Potiphar's house. What's so interesting about it, again, when you think about what's going on, he was bought by Potiphar. He's a slave. He's managing the house. And first of all, you have to ask about his attitude. But we know his attitude must have been really good, because we see in verses that he prospered and that everything he put his hand to prospered. So what determined that Joseph prospered and that he gained rank in Potiphar's house? Joseph did, because he followed God and was obedient. And how do I know this? Well, in verse 3, it says, his master saw that the Lord was with him, and the Lord caused all that he did to succeed in his hands. Okay. This is Deuteronomy 28, which is, I know it was after Genesis. I get that, but still it's biblical principle, right? All of the first half of Deuteronomy 28, blessings for obedience. It actually says, whatever you put your hand to, it will be blessed. That's what the first part of Deuteronomy 28 says. And so we know that Joseph was blessed. Why? Because he was obedient to God's word. Okay. So it means his attitude must have been very good to go, God, you gave me this dream. I don't know what's going on with this particular situation, but nonetheless, I'm going to look to you and I'm going to honor you, and I'm going to do the best that I can in this place. I think it would have been very easy for Joseph to be upset and crabby and, well, I'm stuck, right? And made a mess out of that situation, which unfortunately a lot of us, we do that, right? We see the bad situation. This isn't the vision. This isn't the dream. But he embraced it, held, again, I am certain that he's held to this vision. It's like, God, I know what you said. I know that you do not lie. And so I'm going to keep following you and keep being obedient. And so he was promoted within Potiphar's house during that time. Again, everything that he was under his hand was blessed. And so they kept giving him more. Okay. And so one of the questions I want you to start thinking about your own life, right? Okay. So if there's this dream, as we started there, I've got this dream, and now we're in a situation and it doesn't feel like we're very close to the dream. It's a good time to go, let me check my attitude, right? Let me look at what I'm doing in the midst of the circumstance. Am I leaning into God? Am I believing the vision? Is the vision still true? Okay. And yes, sometimes we question, and I'm sure Joseph may have wondered, was that dream, God, was that dream from you? Right? That there may be a little bit of that. Did I hear you right? Because especially if you've had a thus saith the Lord, there's the question of the person who gave the thus saith the Lord. Okay. And then if it's personally revealed to you in whatever manner, then of course you can question, did I hear correctly? Right? But most of us, when we've had a big dream, there's the revelation for our life. There's confirmation after confirmation after confirmation. We don't get that part of the story, but I'm sure that happened here. I'm sure that Joseph had other confirmation around his leadership and where he was going. I'm sure of it. Okay. So again, he held to that. And so again, just check where you're at to go, am I honoring you, God? Am I holding to the vision? Am I becoming the person that I have to be? Because in Potiphar's house, his character was tested, right? He had to look at that situation, embrace it, and make the most of it. That is just beautiful character development. Okay. All right. God puts us in places to develop our character. I'll go to more scripture on this later. Okay. All right. And then Potiphar's wife is like, Miss Joseph's handsome. Okay. We know that story. All right. He winds up fleeing. Hopefully you know the story. If not, again, take a look. Very interesting. Very interesting. So Potiphar's wife basically gets thrown into prison. It's been doing well all this time. Potiphar's like, I love this guy. Next thing, okay, off to prison he goes. So boom, going to prison. Again, I'm kind of wondering what Joseph's thoughts were. Hey, God, it's Joseph here. Remember me? Remember the whole 11 stars and the sun and moon bowing down to me? This doesn't seem like the place for the 11 stars and the moon and the sun bowing down to me. What's going on? I mean, right? I'm sure it was like, this doesn't seem like what you said. Okay. And I'm sure in our humanity, we often respond like that, right? We're like, this doesn't seem like it. But again, I know that Joseph came back to center going, I know your promise. I know the finish. I will keep your commandments. I will honor you with my life in this place. And he must have had a really great attitude because again, we see that he prospered in prison. He became the keeper of the prison. Everything, he was put into a management position. Okay. So look at Genesis 39, picking up in verse 21. Because this verse is so good. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. I so want to go there. I'm going to come back. Okay. Verse 22. And the keeper of the prison put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever was done there, he was the one who did it. The keeper of the prison paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's charge because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it succeed. Again, this is the promise in Deuteronomy 28. Everything he puts his hands to succeeds. So interesting to me that the prison guy was like, Joseph's got it. It's all cool. I mean, that's a high level of trust, right? That's a high level of he's got it. God's blessing what he's doing. I don't have to worry about it. The Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love. and released him from prison. No, that's not what it says, right? Isn't that interesting? Like, just catch that. The Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and blessed his time in prison as a manager and prospered him while in prison. It doesn't say the Lord was with him, showed him steadfast love and released him from prison. And we think we know so much. like we would do it differently, right? Or like, hey, if I'm orchestrating my own life, it's going to be easy and it's going to be smooth and it's not going to have any bumps and I'm not going to have any bruises and I'm not going to have any trials, right? And I'm going to do great things, right? And God's like, no. Why? Because the bumps and the bruises and the trials, these are the things that cause our character to grow and our character to be developed so we can become the person that we must be to do the things that God has spoken over us. You guys with me? And so many times we forsake and are upset about the trials and the things that we've been to. And God's like, I'm working on you. The promise is still the promise, but I'm working on you. In Romans 5, verses 3-5, it says, not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. We rejoice in our sufferings, and we see in other places trials, and there's other places. And I am not one for like staying stuck in your prison. Obviously, what I do is help our people get freedom. Okay, so we're not talking about that, but just understand life brings trials. In fact, James 1, if you switch over to James chapter 1, starting verse 2, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Steadfastness. If you look up the original words here, so endurance, perseverance, patience, okay, produces steadfastness, holding to that vision, right? And let not steadfastness have its full effect, that you may that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. The NIV says this, James 1, verses 2-4. And the NIV verse 4 says, let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete. Right? That's like, sharper than a two-edged sword, right? Mature. I don't want to be mature. Yeah. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete. Again, we like it our way. We want it to be nice and smooth and easy all the way, but it's not the way it works. And I am not one to believe that God makes circumstances hard or difficult on purpose. But I believe when we come to Romans 8:28, of all things working together for the good of those who love God, okay, we sometimes forget that little piece, the love God part. But anyway, I believe that God, in his wisdom, uses all those things, right? He will use those things to allow our character to be built. And so to encourage you, as you guys go through things, to maybe frame it differently, which is something we talk about all the time, right? So to look at it differently of going, let me be grateful for this thing that I'm going through because it is developing my character so that I can become the person that I have to be in order to do the thing that God has called me to do. So Joseph, a dreamer at 17, betrayed by his brothers into slavery, then does well and is blessed as a slave in Potiphar's house. Just to make sure we're very clear. Okay. He was a slave in Potiphar's house and blessed. Then he's thrown into jail. And then does well in prison and is blessed as a manager. Okay. Still, the dream is not yet fulfilled. Okay. That dream all those years ago. Still, it's not fulfilled. Okay. While in jail, pick up around, so chapters 40 and 41,
There's a lot here. Again, you'd like unpack it. Feel free to get in there, unpack it. So much good stuff here. Okay. But in 40 and 41, well, actually chapter 40, while he's in prison, he starts to interpret other people's dreams, right? The cupbearer and the baker have some dreams, and he interprets those correctly. And then it's forgotten. It actually says that. Okay, 41, verse 2. So he interprets it correctly. And Joseph's like, hey, remember me when you get back in front of Pharaoh, because he knows like what's about to happen. Hey, remember me. Cupbearer totally forgets. And says in Genesis 41, verse 1, after 2 whole years, this isn't the whole thing. This is just after the 2 years from when he interpreted correctly and the cupbearer went back. 2 more years in prison. Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile, and behold, there came up out of the Nile 7 cows. Okay, you guys familiar with the dream here? The seven fat cows, the 7 lean cows, and then you see it again echoed in the 7 plump ears of grain, and then the 7 lean ears of grain. Again, I don't have time to unpack all those things, but okay, so there's this dream about the famine that's coming. And Joseph, there's so much beautiful story here, but basically Joseph winds up being before Pharaoh, says, yeah, I know what that means, tells Pharaoh what it means. But what's so cool here is he doesn't just offer his interpretation. He does offer the interpretation, okay? And basically says, yeah, well, actually, Pharaoh doesn't even tell anybody the dream. Pharaoh's like, I know what the dream is. He goes, which is so supernatural, so amazing, right? He goes before Pharaoh and he tells them, this is what you dreamed, right? And then he interprets it. Do I have the story right? I'm like, or am I thinking a different time? I think I got that right. I was like, yeah, okay. Now I'm all like questioning myself, because this is the part I was like, let me skip forward, because I realized at this point I was like, we were already at 45 minutes of teaching. I was like, move it along, sister, you know? And so, so anyway, I hope I got that right. Somebody can check my fact. I'm not perfect. That's why it's here. I can read it. Thankfully, I don't have to. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So he tells the interpretation of the dream, but then Joseph keeps going, okay? He offers the interpretation, but in verses 32, he says something very spiritual, which is really cool. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it about. So he's like, the fact that it was dreamed once and then again means you don't have long time to wait on this. This is coming fast, which is so neat. But he just volunteers that, hey, let me spiritually tell you what this means. And then he goes to tell Pharaoh, and this is what I would do. If it were me, this is what I would do, which is so neat, because on a character level, this is character development at its best, that says, listen, I've been managing houses. I've been managing your prison, sir. Hi, Mr. Pharaoh. I've been running your prison for the last how many ever years. Okay. And so let me tell you, if it were me, and I knew this was coming, this is what I would do. That's boldness, for one. I mean, like, serious boldness. So it actually gives Pharaoh the plan. And let's just read that really quickly, 32 to 36. So 32 I read. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. I kind of wonder if Pharaoh was like, Joseph was like, pick me. I don't know. I don't know if that was the intention of this statement, or he was just like, hey, pick somebody wise and discerning. I'm not sure. That's maybe something we'll ask Joseph one day. All right. So now, therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years, and let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. That food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish through the famine. Okay, so be prepared. And this is what I would do to make that happen. Verse 37, this proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. They're like, that's a good plan. That's a good plan. And then Pharaoh said, hey, there's no man like this guy. Let's put him in charge. So then now we see the dream starting to happen. Okay. Still 11 stars haven't bowed down. Okay. But now we're seeing a positioning. After all these years where Joseph has developed his character, he has become the person that he had to be for the dream to be fulfilled. Not quite there yet, but it's right there on the cusp. Why? Because he was diligent to hold the vision and to actually honor God in all those small, tiny places along the way, developing his character, having perseverance, having patience, praying, being a light, speaking spiritual things, right? Allowing God to bless heathens. Like whatever he put his hand to was blessed, and heathens were blessed, right? So he honored God in all that he did. It's absolutely just to me, right? Okay. And out of this, the fulfillment of the dream, right? Later we finally see that his brothers come and you actually see it fulfilled as, okay, so he becomes the right hand. It says there in another verse there that he basically was second only to Pharaoh. Okay. He saves the land, saves his brothers, saves his father, is able to save many, many Egyptians because he stepped into the call that God had on his life. And again, this was a prophecy and a dream that was given to him when he was 17 years old. But Joseph was faithful to become the person he had to become in order to receive the fulfillment of that dream. And we often ourselves, we don't respond like Joseph did. In fact, we respond like the Israelites. I just want meat. Just give me meat. Right? We just want slavery. They actually say that. It would be better for us to be slaves back in Egypt than this crazy escapade, Moses, as you've got us walking around in the desert, right? They actually wanted to go back to slavery. And if it was not for Moses, they would have ran back to slavery. Which is another reason why Freedom Tribe is so very important, because you can graduate. And right now, as you graduate, it's a little easier to go back to slavery than it is to continue on to your freedom. It's just a little closer. It's what you know. And so on a hard day, when you really want meat, oh, that worked out. That analogy worked great. You can be like, I really just want slavery because it's comfortable. It's what I know. And you wind up going back the wrong direction. And so you need, I'm not comparing myself to Moses in any way, but you need someone to go, no, freedom's better. Let's keep moving towards freedom. Let's keep honoring God with all our decisions and what we're doing. And let's become the people we need to be in order to do the thing that God has called us to do. Yeah? Okay. There's all these little things we have to do to become the person. You guys have so many of these tools. Like you are becoming, I'm like so proud of you guys, because you are becoming the person that you need to be able to handle the dream that God has put in your heart. Like that is the process. Like that is what you're doing every day. Getting rid of the anxiety, getting rid of the depression, coming into more peace and more joy, coming closer to God, knowing his will for your life, praying, looking to him. Was it Dawn, you said earlier, it's like actually looking to the word for the answers to the concerns that I have today. Like, what a brilliant idea, right? But like that's how we become the person that we are to be in order to have the dream. Because most of us, the dream is so much bigger than us, so much greater, that if it were to happen now like this, it would crush us. We don't have the integrity. We don't have the character. We don't have the maturity for the thing. That's it. We don't have the maturity, right? So embrace the journey. I do not believe that God gave you anxiety and depression. I don't believe that one bit. Okay. I believe it's a number of things that have transpired to this. I do believe it is the thing that's holding you back from becoming the person that you're meant to be. Like, not holding you back from being the person, but allowing you to be able to walk in that power, right? Because here's the thing, and you guys know this because we talk about this all the time. You've got to have emotional stability to the place of peace and joy is still yours no matter the circumstances. Like, that is emotional mastery. To go, I can still be happy, even though when I look around me, I'm like, this looks a whole lot like being sold into slavery and a prison cell. But you know what? I'm going to honor you, God. I'm going to have joy and I'm going to have peace because I know that you're sovereign and I know that the vision is still true. And he will absolutely, God is so good. Like, obviously you guys have seen how he's used my overcoming journey, right? But he will use your overcoming journey, whether it's around anxiety and depression or something else in your life, for you to be able to reach others, to inspire others, so that they can become the people that they are meant to be able to receive their dream.
So many of us have an unfinished assignment. I believe that the dream that God has given you is that unfinished assignment. So what do you need to do to see that dream fulfilled? And I want to encourage you not to just wait for it to come. Embrace the journey, partner with God, and become the person who can handle the fulfillment of that dream. Now, before you go, I'm going to encourage you to do all the YouTube-y stuff. Hey, like this video, subscribe, share it with a friend. If you have somebody that you know has a God-sized dream and they're experiencing a bit of delay, share this video with them so they can be encouraged. Now, as you're watching this, if you know that what is holding you back from fulfilling the dream and from you becoming the person to be able to handle the fulfillment of the dream is anxiety and depression, that I want to encourage you not to stay stuck. You don't have to stay stuck with this. You can overcome it. You can come into a place where joy and peace is your normal so that you can be about the things God has called you to do. If that is you, then I'm going to encourage you to go to our website. I'll include the link below in the description, and you can find out your next step for achieving emotional mastery and really overcome anxiety and depression. And again, living out of a place of peace and joy, so that you can be the person that you need to be in order to receive the dream that God has placed in your heart. We plan to be back soon with more valuable content to empower you to live out of a place of more joy and more peace so you can achieve an abundant life. See you soon.